I don't know if Irene is here, but I'd love to start my talk by saying I love being a design director, because that's actually what I do. And I totally get what she's saying, and I thought her talk was actually really a fantastic talk, and balancing the work we do with the side projects and the things that keep us refreshed and excited about our work. But when I think about what it means to be a design director, to me, yeah, maybe I'm not pushing pixels or writing lines of code anymore. My deliverable has changed. Now my deliverable, and for lack of better terms, is designing how we design. Now my deliverable is people. And when I think about the rate at which software changes and technology changes, and hearing all the talks today, yeah, like we're doing AI and cool shit with now, but like in 4 years, you know, Terminator will have come, will be replaced. Like that's just not gonna last. But what lasts is the people we invest in and how we invest in them so that they can build and do the best work of their lives. And that's what I want to talk a bit about today. So thinking about that, Josh talking about AI, Jen's talk is coming. It's going to be fantastic, and we're going to learn all these great places we can go with technology. And it's moving at a pretty quick click. I think we saw that in Irene's talk, as she scanned through how quickly things changed in a 12-year time span, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I mean, I still remember being in junior high and having to have the cord really long on my phone so I could try to go talk to girls in the room and shut the door so no one would listen. Now I just have this, and like now I have double the personal computer I have in my pocket, right? But how do we keep up with this? And how do we work in teams and for clients and in organizations in a way that we don't just keep up with what's happening, but that we have an impact, that we ship great work that means something in the end, right? And I like this quote, and I didn't cross out the America part because I thought it was like America's lame or anything. It's just more so that like I wanted to keep the quote real, but also realize that this is every company, whether they're shipping products or working with clients, right? And what I'm starting to understand is that as companies, we have this tendency to get a bucket of money and say, okay, here's the thing we're going to build, here's the problem we want to solve, so why don't we just throw this bucket of money and get me the best talent and the best tech? That should be good enough, right? And sometimes that makes a little bit of sense, like, because we do want to have the best tech and the best people on the project, so I can get that there, but like, is that enough? It makes me think of like when sports teams like offer like stupid like $400 million contracts to like 2 really good people. The rest are scrubs, and they're wondering why they don't win a championship, right? It's because they're throwing money at the wrong things in the wrong way. And they're not cultivating environments for those teams to feel like they can be successful. So yeah, tech stacks, great teams, good job, but that's what everyone's doing, right? We used to have to fight hand over fist to prove the value of design. I work at a damn bank. We have 470-something designers. I can't even keep track because we're still just getting more because we're really trying to change finance for a way that benefits people's lives, and so we realize that we have to hire people, right? So everyone's doing that. If banks are starting to hire design teams, I think we've pretty much hit the part where we've saturated design. I mean, healthcare is still wobbling a bit itself, but we're getting there too, right? Maybe we'll get the Postal Service one day, I don't know. But we need something different, right? That's not dependent on evolving tech, saturating markets. I feel like if I fell down those stairs down there, I would land in a job if I lost my job today, right? Well, maybe not because I'm a director now, so I don't really make screens anymore, which actually makes I've just made myself really hard to hire. I'll figure that one out later. But that being said, there's so much work, there's so many people, there's so many teams, and there's so much happening. So how do we differentiate, right? Because all the money and the talent in the world isn't going to guarantee that one, we can ship, one, that we can ship well, and two, that whatever we ship well is going to have an impact. It needs to come from the people who are building those things, right? What I think, maybe not guarantee, because I don't believe there's a ton we can guarantee in this world, but what we can hope to increase is that our chances of success will raise when we find team members that we're willing to invest in, and we create an environment for them where they feel a sense of belonging, a sense of acceptance, and a sense of freedom to be vulnerable to do their best work. How many of you have been in a meeting before where you want to make a suggestion, but you're worried what people will think? I'm going to pull an AO and say, everyone with your hands down is lying, right? We worry about what people think about us. More so, we worry about our bosses think about us, what our colleagues think about us, the partners and the clients that we work with, right? And if we're cultivating environments that heighten that sense of insecurity, then how are we going to really equip people to take the risks that they need to take to make great products? So I think that foundations built on creating a culture that enables teams to their best work actually aren't even as affected by technology changes. I remember I was laughing thinking, today when I'm hearing a lot of people talk about React, and we use that at Capital One. We also used, unfortunately, like 8 versions of Angular. I don't know, I think there's only like 6 or 7 anyways, but somehow we found a way to make like an 8th one that's terrible because Angular is the worst. But like, before that I was laughing because before that I was like, man, I used to gripe about using .NET to build, right? And I was just like, this is the worst. And this stuff just keeps changing and it keeps getting better. And people just, the smart minds that we are, keep coming up with great platforms and stacks to build on. But even if we still are building on shitty technology, if we have the right environment for people to do the right work, yeah, I mean, maybe we'll have some constraints there, but we're still going to be able to ship great work because it's in the people, right? We have the ability to be resilient in our work because we've created an environment that allows that allows us to say, you know what, hey, we went down the wrong way. Yeah, we don't really want to fail here. Let's shift. Let's make a change. Let's do something. And people are less worried about change because they feel safe. They feel included. These are the things that are going to be differentiators when we build. Belonging, inclusivity, vulnerability, safety. Vulnerability is a scary word, but it's also a powerful word that allows us to really step into being our true selves when we do our work, right? So when I think about that, it's really irrelevant, right? Like, yeah, retention rates I think are higher. When people feel like if the work is frustrating, but I'm loving where I'm working and I'm engaged and I feel supported, I'm willing to deal with a little bit more BS on whether it's the stack we're using or the frustrations that we're facing and the challenges we might be facing with partners or clients because I feel supported and ready to do my work, right? So those are the foundations that we need to be creating. Like, yes, let's invest in stack. Let's in our tech stacks and the technologies we're using in the right way. Let's invest in hiring some of the best talent we can find. At the same time, what do we create for all that when it shows up? What have we created for all that great talent we're hiring when it gets there? And here's the best part about this. I'm going to talk a lot about leadership, but every single person in this room has the capability of being a leader. I think Jared Spool loves to get a rise by saying that everyone's a designer. And yeah, cool. I really don't care if everyone's a designer or not. That doesn't matter to me. But what I do believe is that everyone can be a leader. And that even if we don't have a management position or a title by our name, how we carry ourselves and interact with others can start to foster things within our culture that will bring about the change that we want to see, right? I've worked in organizations where we talked about being, we're inclusive and we're diverse and we create this environment where people feel safe. And a good chunk of those people never felt safe because it was all lip service. And yeah, in all fairness, we were trying really hard. And we were just making mistakes. But that being said, we weren't willing to be vulnerable about those mistakes we made. Instead, we were defensive. And that changed my outlook immensely on how I want to lead teams. It changed my outlook on how I want to design. I want to design people. I want to design spaces, environments, cultures. Because that's where the greatest software and the great work we do for clients is going to come from. So how do we do that? How do we go about creating this foundation, right? And I think it's really, should be ping pong tables, foosball. I didn't put foosball or those. I can spell ping pong tables, but I can't spell foosball, so I didn't put it on the slide. But is that what it is? Is it like beer on tap and consistent happy hours? Is those are the things that are going to keep people happy? It's going to keep them sweaty and drunk, but it's not going to really keep them very happy, right? And I think that when we try to invest in these things that we see everyone else doing, what we don't realize is that we're setting up a culture that expects people to be those things, to be a part of the success of the organization. Man, I'm not good at ping pong. I'm not good at foosball. I don't mind drinking, but it's like, if this is what we're rallying so much time and attention around in an organization to build culture, what kind of culture are we building? So I don't think it's those things. Well, they may be fine, and I'm not going to knock anybody for having those things. If that's the extent of the investment we're making for setting a culture for our teams, we're selling ourselves, and even worse, our teams and our potential teammates who come in short. Successful leaders allow their teams to take informed risks. I think the fail fast mantra is hot garbage. The last thing I want to do is fail, man. Anyone in here really excited to fail today? Are you waiting to go home and fail? To go back to the office? Of course, my daughter raises her hand. Cute. I guess I'm here, so now I have to be open about that. And you're good. Thank you for your vulnerability. But do you want to go to the office tomorrow or work with a client and fail? No. In my mind, failure is an end state. That's when I've gotten to the very end. There's nothing else I can do, and there's no way to right the ship. And even then, is that really failing? Because I can gather my learnings just like I would doing research for any project or any client. I can dust myself off, find a new job if I have to, and then go to what's next, right? I don't want to fail fast. There's no need for that. But what I want to do is I want to take informed risks. I want to make mistakes that are honest mistakes from trying really hard to do the right things. Learn from those and be innovative, not only in the products that I make, but in the approach that I take in my work. And that's what I want to foster for teams. And that's where I think as we go with our teams or as working with our clients and the people we impact in whatever sense of our work we are, manager, working individually, for yourself, working with clients, working in a large organization, if we can start to think about what we want to encourage our teams to be and do and give them that space, we're going to see a little bit of a lightness in the shoulders. We're going to see people relax a little bit, right? That's when people are going to start to feel free to make contributions that maybe they're nervous if I want to say something, but I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's just the idea I have. Yeah, create the environment where those kind of conversations happen. And watch the people in that environment blossom. Watch where they grow. And remind them of that trajectory and what they've done and who they're becoming in that process. It's fantastic, right? But how do we do that? Google did a project a while back called Project Aristotle where they talked about, what made it a great place to work and all these different things. And in this article I have linked very small in the thing here, in this New York Times article about Project Aristotle, the number one thing, more than anything else, was psychological safety. I could show up at work as me, and that was okay. Psychological safety meant I could try to contribute in the way I wanted. Even if I knew there was probably someone smarter in the room who had a better answer, I would still feel comfortable bringing that answer. I would still feel comfortable raising a concern to my boss, possibly even about a sensitive issue, without knowing that would be held against me. I could challenge a product or a development partner in a way that was candid and trying to get to a certain place without it being political ammo down the road or keeping me on the outs on the project moving forward. Psychological safety is one of the most important things that we can foster with the teams, the clients, and the people that we work with. And I believe this is true, right? And I've seen this. I've been micromanaged the hell out of for like a number of years, even up to more recent jobs. And as a leader, being micromanaged by other leaders, maybe not malintent, just trying to do their best, right? But like those who are poorly led, micromanaged, not challenged, or held to low standards will underperform. So not even just the micromanaged part. If you just don't give them a target to shoot for and encourage them to get to that place, what are they showing up for? Why are they showing up, right? These are the things we can think about as we start to create the future of the impact that technology has. And it starts with how we develop the people around us, the people we build, the relationships that we make. And that's the shit that lasts. Tech's gonna go away. Yeah, Samsung made me make a huge phone like this big, right? But this shit's gonna be gone in like a few years. We're not gonna use phones anymore, probably. If I give 12 years, we won't even use phones. We'll just like look at each other and talk to each other. And that will be our new texting. Like, you up? It's gonna be weird, right? And I think all of this comes from a lack of trust. And I believe that trust, there's a lot of reasons why trust doesn't exist, but oftentimes it's a chain reaction. When my manager isn't trusted by their manager, who isn't trusted by their manager, who isn't trusted by the org, I constantly feel that I have to have my hands in there, making sure that I'm doing things that build trust for me. But when I know that I'm trusted, I can go create spaces of trust for others, right? In this article by Paul J. Zak, that's kind of a fun name. I wonder if he's like a hip hop artist. I don't know. He's probably on SoundCloud. Anyhow, compared with people at low trust companies, people at high trust companies report 74% less stress, 106% more energy work, higher productivity. Those 13%, those 6 days, they're probably just hungover. They're probably not even sick. 76% more engagement, 29% more satisfaction with their lives, and 40% less burnout. Now, that could be total horseshit. I read the article, it sounded really good, right? And it is all about the neuroscience of trust. But even just if I could move any numbers wherever they are, further and further along for my team, I just get the feeling that I'm setting them up to do some of their best work. And that might even extend past what they actually think they're capable of in their work. So I think if we start by building group emotional intelligence, and when I share these slides, I have a table at the end kind of aligning varying ways that emotional intelligence shows up in how we carry ourselves. But if we have group emotional intelligence, then we can start to have trust, identity, and efficacy, right? Like we can work faster because we know we're trusted. We're not worrying about having to like, hey, is this okay? Am I doing it? We're building that trust. We can work more efficiently with each other, right? We start to have a collective identity because when we trust each other, we start to build bonds and relationships. Even if we're not really like best friends or whatever, there's just a sense of trust and belonging in the work that we're doing. And we're connected through that. And once we do that, participation, cooperation, and collaboration scales, right? Those are things that we want to be scaling. Because then after that, better decisions, more creative solutions, and higher productivity. I mean, like fuck, duh. Like, this is what we should be doing. And I really believe that if this is what we're able to do, create emotional intelligence, start with a group emotional intelligence, build trust, participation, cooperation, collaboration, and we're making better decisions, more creative solutions with higher productivity, I'm going to venture to say that being an emotionally intelligent leader is fucking good for business. And why aren't we doing that? Instead, we're worried about building this way or that way or making sure that people see that, hey, oh, this is the screens that my team built and I led them and I became this. No, get out of the way. Get out of your team's way and let them share their work. Let them shine in their work. Build them up, right? That's our job as leaders. Get the F out of the way and let people do their shit well. We only muck it up. We just need to be alongside, helping out, supporting, get that high five in there, and being there to help them have those open conversations or coach them through frustrating times they may be having with their partners. Now, that being said, I realize that I've probably hit the farthest end of the ideal scale here, right? Like, I realize this is very idealistic. And I don't mind being idealistic because I like positivity, and I feel like this is a good way to think about things and something to shoot for. But that being said, it's not always that way, right? So what are some things we can do? Within your teams or with your partners, like even if you have a team or you just work within a team, strive to create a vision that supports team member autonomy in execution and decision making, right? Cast a vision and then let your team just run in that vision. Let them go. Provide the guidance they need, but build that for them. Build that space to do that, right? Our teams and our team members can understand the expectations of someone leading a project, who's a manager, is a leader, whatever the relationship is. You should have expectations for your managers. This isn't just leadership down. This is how we should be engaging those we report to as well. They can understand the expectations and the importance of them, but I think it's really important that we understand that making mistakes in pursuit of those expectations is okay. It's going to happen. We're kind of naive if we think it's not going to, right? We can provide clear objectives for our teams. Let your teams know what you expect and let them know what we're aiming for. Write those objectives down. Use things like OKRs for objectives and key results to see where you're going. Keep talking about it. Hey, what does success look like for us in this? Have those conversations, and don't just write them down and put them somewhere. Keep those as an open dialogue, right? So we're constantly reevaluating where we are because that may change. Positions the teams and leads to be connected to a singular guiding purpose. I love this idea. I read a book called Team of Teams, and it was about some of our military exercises we had to do in Afghan. And one of the special forces leader thought we were going to walk in there, big bad America, everybody up, and just every one of the military teams got their ass handed to them like time after time after time. Because these other little teams had these little insurgent groups had this singular purpose they rallied around. So they could be 2, 3 of them over there, 4 of them over there, and they just were able to move so nimbly and pull off so many like disruptive ways of approaching this battle. And then they realized is like there's so much hierarchy in their military process that like you had to ask someone to ask someone to ask someone to ask someone. By that time, 4 other things very important have happened, and you're way past it's too late. They started thinking about how do we cast a vision that anyone who's got to make a decision at any time can then say, okay, how does this align to our vision? And then they had the freedom to make that decision without having to check with their leadership. And I've seen this try to happen at other places. But one of the things I've realized as a leader that I've found is a challenge for me, and I think is a challenge for most, is that when you're leading someone and they start to do something or execute in a way that you maybe isn't the way I would do it, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to tinker because it's the way I would do it. But they need that freedom to be able to work in a way that solves the problem and gets to the solution, even if it's not the same way that I do it. And that's challenging, because that means, as a leader, I have to let go of control of the thing I'm accountable and responsible for, which is my team and their output. But I found that the more I do that, by casting a vision around that and working to support teams and finding that vision, it's less of an issue. Chris Fussell, who contributed to that book and wrote another book called, I believe it's called One Mission. I have it in the end of the slides. I love this quote from him, and I've held on to this. And this changed how I think about leadership in general. Teach your team how to think instead of telling them what to do. Empower them to do the best work. Challenging thing with a client. Okay, how do you think we should handle this? What are your thoughts about that? What do you think's the cause? Talk through it with them. Get them thinking in a mindset of being collaborative, of being resilient, of being able to adjust to what we're doing in any given situation, right? Be the guide rails. Give them, hey, this is the area we're working within. Here's some specific direction I may have. Here's your area to play. Have fun. Keep me in the loop. I'm excited about this. Because when we have a shared vision, it becomes easier to increase communication and collaboration. It's a shared understanding that we all have about something. We can all true back to that. And I know this is, and again, I feel like this is my inner monologue is saying right now, but Ron, you don't know this asshole I work with, right? Like, you don't know this client that we're dealing with. Oh, they're a bear, right? No offense to bears, but like, how do we do this? And I think, again, this comes back to trust. We want to work from a position of trust and seek to build trust. If I walk into the room working with partners or clients expecting them to trust me without first demonstrating that I trust them, what am I really asking? That's a very one-sided request. And people pick up on that. They know. Like, dude, you're bullshitting. Like, you haven't showed me I can trust you yet, and you're asking, it's like, what's happening there? So one of the ways I do this, and I'm hesitant to use this phrase of assuming positive intent because I feel like in the wrong hands it's weaponized when people do come and share issues or concerns that they have in the workplace. And so it's, oh, you're just not assuming positive intent. So I think it's important that I highlight we need to make it easy for people to assume positive intent, right? And that's where if we can make it easy for others to assume positive intent about us, we do that by leading and not just saying like, oh, did you read that email? Oh my God, we're going to light them and we get into it all worked up and we work up these narratives in our mind about how we're going to tell them and this and that. When instead it's like, man, I don't even know what they're going through. Maybe they're just having like a shit day. And also, it's email. I could just be reading a ton into this. It's just words. I can't see facial expressions, read emotions, anything, right? For people who are supposed to be so empathetic in our work, that goes out the door real quick with an email that might seem to have a sharp tone in our perception, right? Also, empathy is not something that's just when things are good, right? So we do this within our teams first. Because working with partner teams, it's really difficult to convince them the way you want to work when you're not working that way yourself. They're able to see the relationships you have with your teams. Your clients, no matter how much time, they have these small windows of time with you, and they see how you interact with your partners, with them, and with your team. They're making informed decisions about you and how you work in those moments. So it's important that we work this way in our teams first, right? And then when we've done that with our internal teams, then we can start really finding ways to build that into our cross-functional relationships with our partners and our clients and within our organization, right? So we do the same thing. We work from a position of trust. We go in with the trust. And yeah, and if they misuse it, then yeah, we back that off. We're not naive. We're smart about this. But we try to start things in the right direction. And again, we do this by assuming positive intent. Let's stop making the let's make it pop jokes that the marketing department says. Like, yeah, they say some annoying shit, I get it. But like, how much did we say annoying shit too? Like, I say annoying shit all the time, right? Like, how do we scale that and have some leverage? What the fuck does that even mean, right? Like, we say so many of these things that we're so critical about how everybody else acts with us and talks to us. Yet if we create safe spaces for them to maybe say like, hey, can you make that, well, and that interface pop some more? It's like, cool, man. Like, I'm not sure what pop is necessary as an interaction pattern. Maybe it's on the animation side, but if I just dial myself back and say like, yeah, let me hear more about that. Like, what are you seeing there? Are we not prioritizing the right information? Let's just let them be them and meet them where they are in the work we do, and then watch the dynamic of our relationships change. I also think it's really important to level the playing field. Yeah, Jared Spool often says that everyone's a designer. Not everyone's a designer, right? It's not. Some people are product managers. That's not a designer. You're a developer. That's not a designer. That's a developer. Fine, I don't care. But when I set the expectation that everyone has the space to have an equal voice and say in the work we're doing, I've leveled the playing field. Yeah, you're probably not a designer, but I value your input on this design just as much as I do the other designers on the team. It's not us versus them. We are responsible for the things we create within our organizations and our clients. And as leaders and individuals on teams, what we model to the rest of our teams about how we interact with our partners, right? Level that playing field. Find a common purpose. What I've found out is that when something doesn't go well and someone comes to hold me accountable for it, and I say, well, product partner X over there did this, this, and this. And they're like, sweet, I'm not talking to product partner X. How did you get that back on track, even if that was happening, right? We have to find a common purpose to rally around as a team, setting a shared vision, a shared goals that we can all align on, so that when we get in those kind of tense situations, because they will happen, we can say, okay, let's back this up for a minute. As a group, remember, we committed to X, Y, Z. I know we all have insights and opinions and possibly agendas in getting there. Let's figure out the way that we collectively get there, that we all get benefit from it, and are successful as a team when this does deliver, right? And that really is uniting under one mission. And you got to figure out what that mission is. Have a mission. I have mission statements. I don't, it's jargon. I don't care. Have something that unites you at a high level, as a team, as an organization, as an agency, but then within projects, like what's our mission statement? I've started a practice, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's been really helpful for me when I'm creating decks to explain things. I've been creating a deck for our partners in the commercial bank at Capital One about how we work and how we engage. Right? Because we've always talked about them, and they've been really acceptive, and they're very into design. So I've never really felt the need. But then I realized, like, I'm making so many assumptions about what they understand that we need to really formalize this, especially because our team is growing, and we're being asked for a lot more. So it's really important to do that. And so I found a quote that really, what I wanted this deck to capture, and I put it as the first slide. And I don't always put it in the deck when I give it to them, but I give it to me, so that everything I write in there and everything I do in trying to communicate with my partners is guided by that quote. And it's kind of a weird thing, and I don't know if it's actually useful, but it feels really good, and I like it, and I feel like it's some sense of accountability for myself. I will admit that as a designer in my life, I have been one of the most precious a-holes there is about my work. I get super irritated when development doesn't implement things the way I want. I get super upset when I come up with a great idea and product wants to like back it up 4 ways, tell me just to push the pixels, and we got to ship it by this day. All those things that we've probably experienced. And this isn't just specific to design. Regardless of your role, we've had these kind of encounters where we feel like we know so much, and here's what we're doing. And I think it's time to stop being precious and realize that one of the most important skills that a designer, a creative individual, a developer, a maker, whatever you want to label yourself, one of the most important skills, I would say, next to facilitation, is being able to navigate trade-offs and compromises. Because you can come up with the coolest shit in the world, but if it never sees the light of day, you're an artist. Because artists make stuff for themselves. Product designers, UX research, product design, development, professional engineers, they're shipping something for someone to make money, right? And that's where ultimately, whether we like it or not, that's what a lot of our success is graded on. And I think these 4 things really lend us a very important concept. And that concept is how I choose to show up in my office with my team, with my colleagues, and with my partners. My interactions with them impact their ability to show up. How I carry myself impacts them feeling safe enough to raise an issue with me, to come and say, hey, that design your team made? I don't know, I think we have some questions about the feasibility of that, or look, we've got this tight deadline and maybe we can't get there yet. If I don't create a specific environment by how I engage with them, I put them in a position where they don't feel safe to talk to me about those things. And 1, I just don't feel comfortable with people not feeling safe in general. But 2, then who is really to blame for the frustrations I face. It's me, because I've not created that environment. And it's not easy, right? Work is frustrating sometimes. Designs, at times, it's a job. And jobs aren't easy. And so there's going to be challenges. But striving to be that person who owns the responsibility of the impact they have by how they engage in people will just start to have an impact on a team. And you don't have to be a leader of any kind to do that. You just have to be a human who takes accountability. What are you going to do when you go back to your clients and your teams? And how are you going to carry yourself in a way that they feel welcome and able to do their best work? Again, and that probably leads us to something more along the lines of this, right? Yeah, but dude, it sounds so good, but I know I'm going to go back and it's going to fall on deaf ears and it's going to be really frustrating. I get it, right? I recently was at an event and I heard Scott Birkin talking about politics. And I've always thought of politics, and I guess really in general, but in the workplace as well, as just negative, like shitty. But there's also like good politics, right? Like when for reals politics happens, not like just when for reals it happens, like people are engaged in dialogue, even if it is challenging, to get towards a solution for the betterment of other people, right? So yeah, that kind of politics is good. Finding ways to use the abilities we have to push something forward, that's political, that's agenda-driven. So I think it's important to note that like negative workplace politics are bad, right? So one of the things we've done at Capital One, and I'm really kind of been blown away by this, is we've come up with a mission in the group that I work in, and this is something we're trying to do across. Like I said, it's a large company. There's like 50,000 employees, so like, it's kind of like, it's not like a speedboat. We can't like jet ski. We can't like kind of cruise around as fast as we want. We kind of have to like slowly move the ship towards the destination that we want, and hopefully miss as much as the iceberg as possible, right? We came up, our leadership actually of the commercial bank came up with a mission statement for us and asked us to review it, to give them feedback, and then to partner with them on implementing it throughout all the work we do, which blew my mind. I've never been in a large organization, let alone probably a company at all, that's ever taken the time to do that. And this is that statement. And yeah, like, achieve your dreams and inspire. It's like, yeah, it's a little hallmarky in the beginning, but do the best work of our lives in a fearless, candid, and supportive environment. I would even just say, like, do our work in a fearless, candid, and supportive environment. I'd just be happy with that, right? And so in the commercial bank of Capital One, where we have, I'm going to guess, like somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 employees, we have 700 developers, 44 designers. Like, how do we do this? How do we get people to rally around this mission, right? So this is what we've done. We've asked everybody to do this. Leaders will create a psychologically safe environment where radical candor, differing points of view, openness, and vulnerability are the norm, so that team members can be open and meaningful. They can care about each other's success, take risks. They can challenge us as leaders. I've never been in an environment, especially at a large company, where you are welcome to challenge your leadership. Of course, it's in a respectful and candid and open way. That's got to kind of have to be a given for that to happen. But in my 2 years of being there, I've been waiting for the curtain to come back, and then be like, ha ha, gotcha, sucker. Like, this really sucks. Yeah, you're going down. Like, I was waiting for like that moment where it all came shattering down, and I'm still waiting. Actually, I'm not waiting anymore because it just hasn't happened, so I'm not really expecting that it's going to. And if it does, cool. It was a sweet ride while it lasted, and I've learned a lot about how to carry myself through this. But look at some of these things. Like, are these design skills? Being open and vulnerable. Value a diversity of opinion and experience. Care deeply about one another's success and elevate each other. I don't remember, I didn't do that much schooling, but even then I'm like super far removed from that because, again, sorry, Irene, I'm old. Those were never skills I learned. That's just shit that I learned on the job from effing things up over and over again and realizing the consequences of how that works, right? But these are the things that I think we can do in the relationships we have, regardless of where we are in our small spheres of influence, or leading a team, or working with partners and clients, that can really change the dynamic of how we work, which ultimately changes the output of how we work. So how do we do this? Performance management. Big company, mid-year review, year-end review. You're doing great. You're performing strong, very strong. Okay, needs improvement. We literally put these values that we had on that last screen and the things into that. So yes, like, yeah, you delivered your work on time, great. You're a good designer, great. How do you care about other people in this company? That impacts your review. And so when everybody, regardless of their role, has that, it starts to see that that's the way we're going to work, and people get on board. We continually make resources available. I have a slide at the end of this with some resources for people and heavily encourage them, give them the time they need. Whether it's something like they got an 80-20 time or whatever, we just give people the time to do that. We have trainings we provide. We invest in development plans that are, hey, in the next year, I want to grow your ability to communicate. I want to grow your ability to facilitate. I want to grow your ability to navigate difficult conversations. How do I support you in that? Here's some training. Here's some coaching. These are ways, when we take these idealistic things and actually make them tangible by putting them into the way that we evaluate how we work, we start to make it a norm to be this way, which I think is really important. And of course, it's easier said than done. But one thing I've learned over time is that right when I'm, in most cases, at my wit's end, and I feel like this is not going to work, this is terrible, that's when a breakthrough happens, right? Because sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. And unfortunately, sometimes have to get worse before they get worser, right? Like it just gets worse, and we get that, and maybe that is the time to go, right? That's the time to leave. But as much as we can try to impact and stick that through and see it happen, it is so rewarding to see the change where people start to just come to work in a different way because they understand that they're valued. This is how we're going to ship great products. Yeah, listen to everything you've heard today, because I'm incredibly humbled to share the stage with the people who've been speaking. All of them are an F-ton smarter than I am in so many different ways, especially technologically. And they're equipping you with so many cool tools. And if you take that shit and pair it with this shit, you're going to be unstoppable with your teams and your clients and impacting and seeing growth. So yeah, there are deliverables outside of screens. There's your people, your relationships are fantastic deliverables to invest in. And I don't like ever calling people other things than people. Like when we need to get some more resources, I'm like, nope, we need humans. Sorry, don't use that term anymore. But when we think about what we deliver, when we deliver a safe environment so that someone grows, that's fantastic. That's work that no matter what changes in tech, that shit's still going to last because that person's going to do that for someone else and for someone else, right? And I think we've got enough shit going on right now outside of this work and everything else we're seeing happening around us. So I'll leave you with this. Leaders must change their role from that of an arbiter and a decision maker to that of a gardener, setting the conditions for your team to grow and be successful, nurturing them on your journey. There's one person in my family who can grow plants, and she's in the room back there. I look at a plant, that shit's dead in 2 minutes. Pretty much same with my wife, not lying. That's just how it goes. My daughter, on the other hand, has a small jungle in her bedroom. Right? I'm pretty sure there's creatures in there. But I think part of this is we can't force plants to grow. We can't force people to grow. But we can create an environment in which they are that totally supports that. And I think as leaders, as humans, and as people, this is where we need to be investing our time to be able to ship greater products through the things that we can influence the most. Thank you. A while back, I wrote a book about communication and collaboration. Check that out. I think more importantly, we're hiring at Capital One, and I would just like to highlight the fact that there is literally, and this is just design in New York in the search, 139 effing roles. I mean, some of those might have already been filled, but I have a feeling that even if they were, we're probably like at 110 roles. So if you need a job, if you want to come work in an environment where you're going to feel encouraged to do your best work, hit me up. I'd love to share that with you. Thank you guys so much.